We had to start quite a bit later today than we usually do. It's currently 12:30 of my time. We usually try to get this live by, at worst, 10:30. But we can blame EasyJet. My already late as fuck flight was delayed a ridiculous amount, which led to me getting into bed at 4:15. So, big thank you to Budget Airlines. And let's get into this. We have an insane amount of Counter-Strike to talk about. Almost half of which is just that one map between G2 and the Mongols. Ridiculously long. I was literally, I arrived at the airport, and by the time I got on the plane, that series finished. And we were delayed by over an hour. Like, that was such an absurd marathon of a match. But yeah, we got plenty to talk about. Lots of stage 3 stuff. We kind of got lucky, kind of got unlucky with how things worked out in terms of the teams going through, but which team's playing who. There's a lot to talk about, but of course, before we do that, we have to thank the most important people, the members. No, not you, Quack, not you. Although you are a member, so you do technically count. It's not actually.
I do, yeah.
So yes, the members get access to a bunch of cool content, behind-the-scenes access, the right to vote, and all the VODs from the live streams that I do, doing demo review and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, become a member and support the channel. That's quite importantly what it is, really. It's supporting the channel. So yeah, do that. Quack, what's new with you? Anything to promote?
Not a lot to promo. Worked a lot. I think the past... pulling this out of my head, but from yesterday, the past 11 days, I think I've worked 9 days or something like that. Maybe it's even longer. Maybe it's like 13 and 12. And it's also been a lot of other stuff happening at the same time. But it's been nice, and it's been fun, and it's been a nice break from other things. And yeah, this week is a nice week. We have nice weather. It's midsummer on Friday. I'll be having a lot of fun, missing the first set of quarterfinals. But yeah, that's what's going down. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. It's been, honestly, it was crazy. We were watching the sun rise as I was driving back to my flat. Like, that's how you know midsummer's coming, right? Like, that's crazy, because as much as it was late, it wasn't that late. So yeah, we will be seeing a very long day very soon, and I'm sure you Swedes will get very responsibly drunk, as you always do this time of year.
Do you want to go live, let's say, Saturday at 2 a.m.?
No.
See what happens?
I do not want to see you in that state.
Would be a good show.
You might say some things that you can't take back if that's the case.
Yeah.
But all right, let's do it. Stage 3. Man, I don't even have a bloody lower third for this. Holy crap, what a good start to the show.
What a good start. Can I just say, we haven't put stage 2 in the show notes because we did most of it last week, and honestly, I kind of forgot about it. There's only one thing I really want to mention. I feel like the last round was kind of uninteresting. There's only one thing I want to mention. I was correct about MIBR having a chance of upsetting Falcons. And yeah, I called it.
Okay, there you go. You got your little shot.
I've been good at picking these games. Like, I've been pretty good at picking what's gonna happen here. I mean, pick games are shit, but like individual games, I've done fine. I've done pretty good.
Pick'em's still dog, but it's all right.
It's the format, man. It's the fucking format.
It's the format, yeah. It's the format. But okay.
I had Furia 3-0, but in stage 2, so I was like half right, I feel like.
That's just not how it works. Anyway. Let's talk about the teams who took care of business. Let's talk about the favourites that we needed to play well here. And Spirit, I had them as my favourite team to really go and upset Vitality. If there was a team to beat them in a series, who'd win this major that wasn't Vitality, it was obviously Spirit. Looking at the top end of the team, looking at how well they played together, this was the team to rival them. And they did it pretty comfortably. The final series against Na'Vi 2-0, the Anubis map had me thinking maybe this can be a series. Then Train just smacked any Na'Vi belief back into the ground, because that was embarrassing, to put it politely. Furious Spirit performance. Donk, pretty strong. Shiro, outstanding. And actually Magix showing up some numbers. I said, if Magix and Chopper can figure out how to shoot something that isn't a wall, Spirit can win the major. Good start, right? That's a good start. That level from Magix.
Good start. didn't get why the hell Navi picked Train. I was sitting here in the series, like watching it with a friend and talking about it, and I was like, all right, so they pick Anubis. I guess that's a fine pick for Spirit. It was an obvious one considering the bans and there. Yeah, all right. Why the fuck have Navi picked Train when Ancient was on the table and Mirage was on the table? Like even Nuke would have been better, I think, for Navi. So like, what is happening here? So yeah, they're picking a Spirit and they lose hard. And yeah, Spirit is after this game, I saw people starting to say that they were thinking Spirit were favorites for the major.
That's a bit goofy, but yeah.
Pimp, namely, was one of them. Vitality Ambassador, Pimp. But yeah, I can sort of understand it because this is like they had to take care of business and they managed to take care of business. I think even in Shanghai, they weren't 3-0 if I'm not misremembering. I think they had a rough go of it in the RMR, and then if I recall correctly, they lost to maybe Mouse
They went
in the
3-1
2-0 game.
Yeah, they went 3-1. They didn't lose to Mouse in the 2-0 game. They lost their
they
opening
lost to
BO1 to Furia. You know, a classic major bullshit loss. In the same way, Vitality started with a stupid loss to Legacy that meant absolutely nothing because they absolutely slaughtered everyone else, and especially in the series with VP, dumpstered them. So again, just goofy, stupid shit from the major format. It leads to this kind of thing. But yeah, Spirit deserve a lot of credit for actually making it look so easy. That's realistically what it was, because none of the BO1s even looked close, did they? Like 13-3, 13-7. Just took care of it.
It's not
credit to Spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, they handled it. There's a couple of these which, honestly, even Lin Vision, there's a couple of here that like they could get hairy. Like they could be close maps, but no, they handled it well. Oh, they had the advantage of playing Dust 2 in both of them, which is like that's been Chopper's home map for 4 years.
It has. It's an odd choice if you're playing specifically Spirit in a BO1. Like, I know I've called it in the past. Like, Dust 2, Mirage are maps that I consider very viable upset maps. Like, if you're a team coming in trying to punch up, those are the kind of maps you want to play in a BO1. Try and play, you know, maybe an odd style on that map, which is quite firepower dependent. Maybe you can catch some teams off. If you get in their face enough, simplify the game, you've got a good chance on those maps to make that sort of thing happen.
Yep.
But Spirit, Dust 2, Chopper, that's just not an option. It doesn't feel like a very viable option just to face them. They're probably, I feel comfortable calling them probably the best Dust 2 team, or close to the best Dust 2 team, especially when it comes to taking care of the little guys, just smacking them down. So yeah, that's what they did. Really impressed. And look, the other 3-0 team, it's a very different story. Because Furia, they won the BO1s they were supposed to, like, to make this run happen. They're not supposed to beat Mongols and Aurora. What I'm saying is, you know, to go 3-0, you need to win the BO1s. The series is usually where we see the underdog team that made that 2-0 run tested. Unfortunately, they got to play Virtus Pro, which kind of shits on it, you know? It's kind of a downer. Because I thought, at that point, that's when I saw the 4 teams who would be 2-0, and I thought, okay, Spirit take care of VP, Na'Vi give Furia a test. Compelling. That way, if Na'Vi make it 3-0, they deserved it, they're the higher seed, they got good matchups. If Furia make it, they were a lower seed, they upset, they made it to the final actual series, and then upset again. 100% deserved, no conversation needed. This kind of thing is just a bit of a sour note, but they deserve credit for how they played overall, like converting. And Molodoy, I think at one point was leading the entire event in rating before having a pretty weak final BO3. But at that point, hey, the rest of the team woke up, so it didn't matter. It absolutely did not matter. When you have the rifle core on this team actually fragging, they are pretty impressive, and that is why they made it into my top 10 to top 8, I think, somewhere in that range, for teams to actually maybe make a deep run here. But it is it's not the most dependable win condition.
I'm honestly VP being VP, we talked about on the show how it was never going to last, how it was not going to be sustainable for the stage, the way they play and success they find. I was surprised to find them in the 2-0 in the first place. But yeah, they kind of lucked out with having the legacy there. We had so many opening day, I'm going to say quote unquote upsets, because a couple of these aren't really huge upsets, but we had enough opening day upsets where Legacy actually ended up being like a middle seed in the 1-0 because of the way everything works. So kind of lucked out there having that, but I didn't expect VP to be here. I'd even say that like the way VP played on this major, I've struggled to find 9 other teams to put solidly above them. So I'd say it's not Furia dumpstering what I therefore would call a top 10 team in that fashion. That's pretty good, I would say.
I can name a lot of teams I think are better than VP.
Yeah, but can you name 9?
Real. Yeah.
Because I tried. It's like I end up with like Gamer Legion and Aurora, and that's debatable because GL aren't here, and Aurora are kind of like not playing that well. So G2 I put below them.
That's a bit absurd, to be honest. That's a bit absurd to me. I don't think VP are that strong a team. I really don't. They got the run of the luck like that they could. Like in terms of their stage 2 was just we've never seen this level from this team ever.
No.
Stage 3 they win 13-11, 13-11 in the BO1s, then don't win a map again until they play Pain in a 2-2. No, they were not that good. They were not that good.
No, they weren't.
They weren't. The Counter-Strike they played, it fell off so hard because they didn't. The problem was, it's not like Stage 2, they showed a different style. They just shot super hard whilst playing a pretty poor brand of CS.
Yeah.
The shooting fell off. Like, Electronic is not going to be the best rated player at any major stage, like, twice in a row. Like, that just cannot be the case. So they fell off pretty hard in the fragging department. And when that's wrong, so I actually genuinely, straight up, Liquid went 0-3. Liquid were a better Counter-Strike team at this major. Liquid went 0-3 and they're a better Counter-Strike team.
I don't think I can stretch that far, to be honest. But all right, yeah.
Watch the Mouse game. Tell me that team, that Liquid team, is worse than the VP you watched get absolutely sourced as soon as they faced real competition in a series. Like, absolutely sourced. That Liquid team is actually good.
Yeah, all right, fair. Anyway, well done, Furia. Again, kind of lucked out. I honestly still, like, if we ended up with a Furia Navi game, I might even have picked Navi for that, to be honest. But that's the sort of, after beating Mongos and Aurora, I probably would have given almost 50-50 odds for a Furia Navi game.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. That's kind of fair because we've had our critiques for Navi. We've said, they've lacked a star, and the one thing that you don't lack on Furia, at least at any given moment, is a star. Like, they really are that kind of team where I can be quite comfortable actually right now with the way that Kindar's maintained his form. I think I have 3 match winners or map winners on this team. And then I still have Yuri. So sure, consistency is always an issue, and a lot of the time, considering maybe the calling, the structure, it's been getting better, but it's still not amongst the very best. They probably do have to rely on a couple of those guys showing up to win a series. And you can't say that's going to 100% happen. And you saw Molodoy have a pretty rough, like, AFK sort of series. And you have to say, like, that sort of thing is more than possible given playstyle. But they have that quality, that individual quality, that we've really not seen a lot with the Na'Vi team. We haven't seen a lot of match winning level play. I mean, they've talked about how their comms are getting better, and I'm like, I love it, lads, but you can't chat your way to the major. You need to beat these teams at the end of the day.
Yeah,
and that's going to be the real test for them.
Yep. But yeah, that's sort of the 2-0 pool. Spirit up there as a contender. I feel like we're going to talk about exactly how we rank them, but I feel like Spirit are one of the 3 teams that are definitely in the running for winning the major, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you don't have them number 2, you better write me a fucking essay. Like, I don't see how you can have
actually, okay. The thing that I would say, if you didn't watch stage 3 and if you just came in and saw the playoff itself, I'd probably have put them 3rd, and that's mostly because they match up against Mouse, who have had the number of Spirit all season. So for that quarterfinal, with a couple of days break, I'm tentatively feeling like that could be a Mouse win, and that changes the bracket entirely. But the form that they showed, like that both teams showed in the previous stage, speaks against that. So that's maybe the one argument you can make to put Spirit anywhere other than 2nd at the moment. But Yeah, the form in the stage 3 kind of does diminish that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, they were incredible. The other teams let's talk about.
Yeah.
Look, Vitality, the streak was over, and we all called it, and we said it'd be so unsatisfying and it'd be silly. But a major BO1 is where the streak ends, and right on cue, the opening BO1 they play, they lose 13-3 to Legacy. It's just unreal how predictably shit this stuff is.
Yep.
Like, we knew it would happen, and it happened. And it happened in the worst way possible as well, because they played a really, like, in terms of prestige, aura, all that sort of thing, like a team that's way below them in a BO1.
Yep.
And got smashed. And the thing is, I saw that and thought, okay, they're going 3-1. Not for a second did I think, oh, they're actually worse than Legacy. We know this stuff's fake, man. It's such a shame. But thankfully they recovered. They then kind of stomped everyone.
They eased into it.
It was
every
unreal.
team. It's almost a little bit bullshit because every single team they played got knocked out. There are 0 playoff teams in Vitality's run. Feels a bit like Paris. If I'm honest, like if they had to play FaZe or Navi in the 2-1 game, I don't think things would have looked different. But it definitely would have felt a lot more solid going to playoffs. It feels a little bit like we don't have a lot to go off of.
I would agree if I hadn't watched them win 6 or 7 straight lands, you know?
Yeah,
go
6,
30 straight series 1. You know, if all of that wasn't true, and if they'd even put up any sort of, like they looked even vaguely challenged by everyone they played after Legacy, you could have that conversation. Unfortunately, we just can't. Like they did, none of the maps were closed. None of the maps were close.
Yeah. But like I'll tell you, like going in with a 30 map streak, a streak going back to February. Right, we did an article on Fragbite where us 3, the part-time writers who are working with the site right now, we put our pick'ems in and we talked about our pick'ems. We talked about who do we think are going to surprise. 2 of us put Vitality 3-1. Like 2 of us knew that they were going to lose a best of 1, and I was one of them. All of us also put Mouse's 3-0. So maybe, you know.
Nostradamus over here.
Yeah, I'll put it down for. I also put I put Liquid and Aurora going through as well. But I did put Pain going through, and that's what saved my pick'ems. But yeah, well, it was gonna happen. Like for me, there was no doubt in my mind when you have a streak, and the debate was already about like, oh, but how does this compare to NIP streak? NIP had to play BO1s. Or like NIP streak, I can't remember what it was. It was something like Liquid streak is longer if you remove BO1s because BO1s are so random, and then some people rebuttal with, but why would you remove BO1s? They're harder, like, you know, etc. etc. So BO1s were always going to be the challenge for Vitality, I think, and it was going to happen. They lost one of them. Didn't even have to be against Legacy. Like if they had played an Amiga or 3D Max at some point later in the event as well. Like if that was it somehow happened, then I would have said the same thing. I think because it was gonna happen, and it happened. And now they're through, and like okay, like I see you there, Asylum. It's like the Paris comment is different because Paris Vitality weren't going in with 6 straight lands, like you said, but. It's the thing where like if we didn't get this bracket, because I think there were scenarios where we could have had kind of a bullshit bracket for Vitality as well, where like Vitality they play Navi and then they play Mongols and then they play Furia. Like that was a realistic playoff run. If that's what happened, I would start to think what's up with this team and having easy major wins. That's what I would start to think, because then you could again say they played 0 of top 5 teams all major. You could say that at that point. So. Then I would start to think a little bit, but we're not there. We have a solid ass major bracket, and if there is a little hint, a little sprinkle of Parisness in this Swiss stage, we're gonna notice that in these first 2 games. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But look, the other team that really we have to address, because they've been the talk of the entire major. And they had a similar run to Vitality. They opened with a BO1, lost. This one to Aurora, which is far more understandable. When I watched it happen, I was like, okay, this is about what I expect most games between these 2 teams to look like, right?
Especially with the stage 2 form as well. It was very logical.
Yeah, and Simple played actually pretty okay in this series, in this map. rather. But overall, Aurora came with everyone firing, especially Xantares. That's it. You're not gonna win that series. That map. You're playing a great map for Aurora, and the best players playing crazy good. You're not gonna win it. But then the run to bring it back through the BO1s against Maus and against Legacy, and the second and best team in this stage, obviously, in that order. But then, a series against Mongols, and that was for me the part that actually mattered, right? The series with the Mongols is kind of do or die, because I feel like in a 2-2 game, I don't know how the seeding would have worked out, but I think things get a little too nervy. I mean, they're probably clutch enough to just pull it through anyway. And given how they played against Mongols, it wasn't close, so it wasn't really something to consider. But I felt going into the game, I was like, this is the big one. Win this, I'm starting to believe in the magic. And they did it convincingly. This was, I think it's fair to say, this is probably the best overall series I've seen from Simple.
Yeah. All else being equal, that hypothetical 2-2 game would have been G2.
Okay, so that's probably a win, but again, if they'd have lost to Mongols, they're probably playing worse CS, etc. But they didn't. They played great CS, and probably the best series. Okay, maybe not from Simple individually, but I guess from FaZe with Simple, I think would be fair to say. That was a really convincing win on Ancient and Anubis. Again, they played Ancient and Anubis all the way through Stage 3. A strange coincidence, I guess. But really strong performance. And they faced a Mongols that wasn't even choking. This was Senzu playing well. This was a strong Mongols team. And they just absolutely took care of them on that Anubis game. He picked it and then ran rampant on the CT side. Simple, of course, 16-4. I just checked the exact numbers. He was going off. Rain bringing the heat, and that's probably exactly what you want to see post Skulls. It wasn't just Rain has to come in and not make some of the mistakes Skulls made. No. He needs to be an outright better player, way better player, and that was classic example. Rain in a big event all of a sudden delivers, secures another 6 months. You know what I mean? We've had that conversation before. We're probably going to have it again. If they make it currently odds-on favourite to make the final from their half of the bracket, if they make that run again, all right, cool. 6 months locked, right there.
It is. It's calling back to Antwerp, because just ahead of Antwerp, Rain had a baby. Immediately afterwards, had a big daddy buff, which happens every single time a tier 1 professional player has a child. They get better. It happened to Messi, happened to Electronic. I think even Glaive had a random event just afterwards. He became a dad. Rain did it in Antwerp. Major MVP in Antwerp. Now, he took some time off. That's what Skos was there. He had a baby, another baby. He's suddenly decent again. So yeah, there's the key. That's what you have to do. But yeah, no, they're solid to come through. I group them as part of the top 3 candidates for winning this major with Spirit and Vitality, because of that sort of form. That's a step up as well from the stage 2, even if that was a bit iffy. They're looking good. They sound good. Just watching them, it looks like they're having a good time. It looks like they have energy. Their players are starting to hit. Simple is starting to hit. I would even Frozen was great in stage 2, even with their shaky form. He hasn't really been that good in the stage 3, but Elige is up there and Rain is up there, like you said. Things are looking good, I think. So now we're going to playoffs, where I always say that FaZe have more extra gears for major playoffs than any other team in the world, I think. So how big that leap is going to be?
Yeah.
The FaZe Magic. That's sort of why I put them up as a contender. And they have an easy side of the bracket. The favorites to be in the final, I would say.
Oh.
Depends on the opponent.
For their bracket, yes. Favorite to be in the final. For their half, because they are facing a far weaker half of the bracket. Let's put it that way. We have touched on it briefly, but we need to really go into it now. Now that we get to FaZe and we're on the other side, one half is far weaker than the other. And look, FaZe, they get a repeat matchup with the Mongols, which I think is going to be far more difficult to negotiate than we expect. Because going into it, they just beat them. It's a playoff stage. The Mongols suck on those stages. The complete opposite of FaZe is essentially what Mongols are. They just struggle to deliver, give you the best stuff in these sorts of moments, especially when they're facing big names. That seems to be a real thing. Like if you track the brand value of the names, not necessarily just the quality of the opposition, but how big a name the opponent is, they tend to struggle. So like even when G2 are off, Mongols struggle against G2. So it's one of those weird things where literal name brand value matters to them. And FaZe is about as big as it gets. Simple as big as it gets. So we'll see how they hold up. That's all the story, though. That's how it should be. It should be a pretty comfortable opening matchup for them. In practice, given a couple days to prep, I don't think it's that clear.
The thing with Mongols is that there's always a cloud hovering above them, which is the same one we had for Mouse for a couple of years, which is when is that one game, which is a turning point where they start performing in the arena like they can do in a group stage. And it could be literally any playoff game they play. Hasn't happened that much this year. Eternal Fire was maybe like the first time they showed just a teensy tiny bit in Katowice, I want to say. Maybe it was Melbourne. Whatever game it was. There was some game where they played Eternal Fire in the quarterfinal. It was some game where they played Eternal Fire in the quarterfinal. It was pre-Aurora transfer, so it's got to be like March, I think. But yeah, they played them in the quarterfinal and made it through to Vitality in the semifinal and got dumpstered, obviously. But this game could be that. Could also not be that. Like it's the biggest stage performer, but for me it's inevitable that, or at least if Mongo's are ever going to be a proper top team, there is going to be a game, has to be a game at some point where they beat the stage performers. FaZe are the stage performers. Like it's that's what they are. It's that FaZe magic.
Yeah, they are the showgirls.
And that could be today or Friday. I mean, it could be Friday evening. Could be or it's not. So that's the cloud which is hovering above them for me. But
yeah. So they have their big test, and I personally am torn between these two because obviously we had that episode. We designed the perfect major. I said I wanted FaZe top 4. Problem is, if they're top 4, they're top 2 at this event. It feels like, right? Like there's very little chance that you have Furia making the grand final or Pain making the grand final going through this phase. So probably if they're top 4, they're top 2. So that game decides a lot. It'll decide the future of this phase roster. It'll decide possibly like the next season what kind of Mongols we expect to see. Because if Mongols don't get it done there, I don't expect them to magically get it done next season, right? But then if they do get it done, are they all of a sudden a real contender? And then we have another team to contend with. I mean, it's a lot of things I think ride on this match. It's that big, that important. It'll decide a lot for the major itself, but everything beyond the major too will be affected by FaZe Mongols. So, whilst it feels weird to talk about quarterfinal at 7:00 on a Friday as being that significant, I think it kind of is.
Kind of is. And I would probably say the Mongols have the same thing where like if they win, they make top 4, they make top 2, maybe. The Furia Mongols game is very 50-50, but I'd probably edge Mongols.
I'd edge Mongols too, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. Anything could happen. It's not even a guarantee Furia goes there. It's a domestic Brazilian game, and Pain have hands. So
Pain do have hands. Like this current iteration is actually quite dangerous. It wasn't becoming that clear. Like they still were a bit iffy in stage 2 for me.
Yeah.
And stage 3, it opens with 2 BO1 losses against really good teams. But the way they recover and they show off that, DGT and Davideus, when we get it right, when we're not playing with a coach, that's a really dangerous combo to have around this IGL. So, yes, experience is a factor. But that being said, we've seen inexperienced teams win a quarterfinal at a major. How we've seen inexperienced teams win the entire major. So I would not be so sure that the Furia matchup's a done deal. I would not be sure.
No, it's not a done deal. I'm not gonna. It's an underdog for sure, but yeah, there was always going to be a time when DGT finally clicked, and it seems to have up and down in this major. Even the first 2 games, he was really really weak, but as soon as the best of 3 hits, it's the Nemiga game, it's Davideus, NQC, DGT. The 3D Max game, both of those are like worse opponents for sure. But again, it's because Era's like DGT's up there with the 109, and then the VP game, it's DGT all the way, and that's why they signed him. Like they signed him to be one of their star riflers, so that's nice to see. That's nice to see for them. VP game, I'll also say like over the course of the season, Pain have beaten VP. Like they've matched up quite a lot of times, and Pain have beaten them pretty consistently. It was kind of weird when we had to go the other way in stage 2. I felt it was a bit weird when they obviously lost the 2-0 game to VP. I had Pain going all the way, but yeah, it's I was like the alternative. If VP had won the game yesterday, we would have had a much more even playoff bracket where all of the quarterfinals would have been very even. But even with this one, I'm gonna say that I'm not confident in calling pretty much any game outside of Vitality Navi how it's gonna
go. I kind of am, and so that's going to bring us to our segment that I threw together, or we threw together, just before we went live. We're going to be doing a sort of a title pie, if you would, for this section, and I'm going to talk about.
Is this on screen?
Not yet. It's about to be.
Oh.
It's about to be. I'm just talking about it in terms of what it's actually going to be, in terms of which teams have the best chances, basically, to win this major, still remaining. And I've thrown my odds on there just based on my perspective on how sure I am of things. Oh, bloody hell. Let's get into this. All right. So ignore the fact that you can't see the pie perfectly. It's all labeled, and I'll walk you through it all. And I'll tell you the exact figures, because the exact figures are not on the pie. So the number one team to win this, most likely team to win this, is Vitality. It still is. That hasn't changed. I've given them about a 45% chance of winning the event. It's not exactly a done deal, because they have a ridiculously hard bracket. Like, it's not It's not a cakewalk to the grand final. They have to face, as far as teams remaining, a guaranteed facing a top 3 team in terms of going into this event, like post-Falcons loss. And then they first have to match up with a top 5 team. Maybe 6. It depends on how you judged them. But they have to play Na'Vi. They then have to play Spirit or Mouse. I think it's probably Spirit, who are, for me, one of the most dangerous teams at this event. But I believe whoever wins between those two in the semi wins the event. So I have them 45% chance of winning the entire thing. Up next, Spirit, 20%. 20% chance. Like, if you run this 100 times, they win it 20 times. Because they are that strong right now. As much as they're not matching up particularly well with Mouse historically this year, they've not been in that great against Vitality. They've lost to Falcons. I think they look particularly strong right now. Like, as strong as they've looked since that silly blast thing at the start of the year. That's where I have them.
Bounty, yeah.
Bounty, that's the word. They are absolutely insane. And with their top players performing the way they are, I find it... I think that that matchup in the semi is going to be gritted teeth. Like, I'm going to be rooting for Vitality, but I'm going to be terrified the entire time. Next, 10% FaZe. And you know what? My gut, before we went live, did not have it tied. I had them slightly above. It's close between them to the next two beneath them. It's actually pretty close, but I have them at 10%. Obviously, the bracket, a huge part of it. The bracket's a huge part of it, because I do believe they win their opening matchup, they're making the grand final. And at that point, I can't count them out. Not with the caliber of players, not with the history of these players. They can't be counted out, and that's why close behind them, 9% for Mouse, because if they make it through their bracket, they're probably winning the event, because that'll take an insane run from them, and at 8% Mongols. Because again, Mongols beat FaZe, all of a sudden you're making the grand final. I think that's pretty much a sure thing. And that brings us to the lowest 3. Na'Vi at 4, Fury at 3, and Pain at 1. Now, you might be saying Pain at 1%, but you just talked about how that game with Fury isn't done. Yeah. Technically, Fury's triple the odds, but we're talking
That's the
Furia
event as a whole.
to win the entire event. Just to win that matchup's
Yeah.
one thing, and then they'd have to still go through a bunch of other teams. I just think that Pain are the most likely to win that one game, and then
Nothing
not do
else.
anything. If they do win that one game, like a lot of the other teams are talking about, if they win that one game, all of a sudden, Pain ain't happening. I just don't see it happening. But yeah, that's kind of how I envisioned it this morning. I would have had some dramatic 3D shit going on, but I don't have that kind of animation skill. I'm just talking about where my pie lies right now.
Mm.
Do you have any major qualms? Who's a team you think is under or overrated in this?
Well,
I think probably, I'm going to guess, you're going to have FaZe larger slice than 10%.
this is marginal. It's not that much bigger. I think they might be close to Spirit. The thing, I'd probably tie both Mouse and FaZe on something like, I don't know how the numbers add up, but something like 12, 13, like something like
You're a
12 and a half,
believer.
an eighth. The reason is because Mouse have beaten Spirit every single time this year, I think. So
Right.
I'm not, yeah. So for that, but then they also haven't beaten Vitality because nobody's beaten Vitality in a long time. So
Except Legacy. Do 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 do.
Legacy and Aurora are the only two teams this year who have beaten Vitality. There's one thing with Vitality which I think is like it's just nagging, sort of it's just a mirage in the distance, which is that previously they had issues with like closing games where they felt they were the favorites, like where they felt they were comfortable. And we're talking last year, we're talking Dallas, where they're playing G2 with Sui, and they know we should win this, and they go way too easy on that game, and they lose. That's what they said happened in that game. And that's the last grand final they lost. After that, they won Cologne. They didn't make any other final after that. And then it's been this year where they won everything except for Bounty, where they lost in the quarter.
Yeah.
So for that, there's like this tiny thing for me, which is like you're coming off of a generational win streak, like one of the best seasons ever you're coming off. You go into the major and you beat your top two contenders in the quarter and the semi. What's your feeling in that final if you're standing there facing FaZe or Mongols? Maybe not even FaZe, because FaZe is also one where I feel like they would respect that. But if you're facing Mongols or Furia, is it like...
I understand what
is
you're
that
trying
still...
to get to,
yeah.
but the problem
Is
is
there still the choke thing
they've
where like
taken
Apex goes
everyone seriously all season. They've crushed
yeah, but they've also only played
Mongols
serious
in
teams.
playoffs, like over and over again. Like they've played teams like Gamer Legions in series. Like they actually beat Legacy in a series. Like they've taken
But
care
it's
of
more
business
so-
over and over again. There's that attitude is not there. It really has
It's
not
more
been
so
there.
the grand final specifically, because in Dallas as well, I would imagine they felt that their biggest challenge in that event wasn't the grand final; it was going to be the semifinal. Because if I
Yeah, and they
recall correctly,
smoked
they
the
played
grand
Spirit.
final.
Yeah,
Like, that was the most comfortable one they had. Like that's the point.
no, Dallas last year. That's what I
last
mean.
year.
Where this all came from, where they lost to G2
This
with
isn't
Sui.
last year.
But let me just like that's where it comes from though, because that's where they had this, and that's where they spoke about it. That's why their toughest game going into that event was the semifinal against Spirit, and they let off the gas because they felt G2 we can deal with. We already dealt with Spirit. We're better than this, and that's why they lost to Stewie. And that's like, I know that it's like I'm talking 0.5%, but like if they end up beating Navi and Spirit, and they feel all right, Spirit and Mouse are out of it. That's like Spirit, Mouse, and Falcons are gone. Those are our only other contenders this year, all year long. We're done with this. We can just let off the gas and we're going to cruise through the Furia game 2-0. Easy. Do they? And then, there's this tiny 0.5% of me which is just feeling what's going to happen here. But no, Vitality have to be the favorites. All that being said, I'd still probably put them over 50 if I'm going to be entirely honest. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't have that niggling down. I mean, sure, technically I could catastrophize, be like, oh, what if their car gets hit by a meteorite on the way to the stadium? But I've just watched them for 7 straight events take everyone dead fucking serious, and by the end of it, are beating them more comfortably than at the start. Like, they had tougher grand finals against Maus, against Falcons, than the last one they played. This is a Vitality who are actually robotically taking care of business. The Legacy loss was the one like little human aspect of all of this, helped by the fact that it's a shit system. And they are now just going to smash it. Like, I don't see why they wouldn't.
The thing is that they've never the Dallas thing where where the semifinal was the real grand final, and then they have an easy final opponent. That hasn't happened all year because they've only had the most difficult opponent in the grand final. They've had Falcons or Mouse or Spirit every time. So for that, it's like if they manage to do it here, if they manage to do it in this grand final, then yeah, they've proven it. For me, they've proven it. But they haven't faced the same scenario, and they're about to face the same scenario. If that attitude is gone with Rops, perfect. They fixed it. I'd wager that they're gonna do it. If they end up in that scenario, they're gonna do it, I think. But there's still this niggling thing that like could still happen. I'll still give them. I'll probably still give them 50 or 51. Like I'd still give them.
You give even more than I do.
More than half. Yeah, I'd still probably do that just because I think they are that dominant, and the track record just speaks for itself. Like Spirit and Mouse, they haven't beaten them in fucking ages. It's been a long time since we had a Mouse or a Spirit win against Vitality. But then also, Spirit, I'd probably take away a bit from Spirit, give more to Mouse and Face. I feel like that Spirit Mouse Face is quite close. Probably still put Face above Mouse, maybe, but it's pretty close. Mongols and Furia, I do feel like they need to play Mouse in Mouse or Spirit in the grand final to win.
Well, they're not beating Spirit. I'm very cocksure on Spirit being comfortably the second best team in this bracket. Comfortably.
There's something about Spirit playing against Fury and Mongols which just fits like a puzzle piece in my mind, where it feels like this is gonna be a close game no matter what happens. Like no matter if it's top 1 versus top 10, it feels like it's gonna be close. But I don't know. I have trouble placing Mouse. Really, I put that in the show notes as well, because going into the major, they're top 3. Going into the major, they have a solid track record against Spirit. When Falcons are knocked out, you could even say the top 2. Spirit played a great group stage. Mouse really struggled, but they also played very good opponents in pretty much every single game in stage 3. Mouse struggled. Spirit.
Sorry, no, I wasn't reacting to you. Something went wrong on OBS.
Oh, yikes.
Don't worry, we're still good. We're still live. We're still good.
All right, nice. Mouse, they have the track record against Spirit. Spirit don't have the track record against Mouse. So I'd put them top 3. Falcons are out, I'd put them top 2. But then stage 3 starts. Spirit go blasting. Mouse, they go 0-2. But then from that 0-2 run to playoffs, they play Liquid, who you just said were a good team. And honestly, I would have agreed. That's a tough game for them. Every other game.
They squeaked it.
And they squeaked it. Then they played Aurora. Playoffs every single event this year. And Aurora, this is their worst event of the year so far. That's where we're at.
In no small part because Mouse just outplayed them. Like on that Mirage, map 3, Mouse just played way better CS.
Going into that one, I'm like, okay, they had a really tough group stage. They're going to beat Legacy. They're going to be in playoffs. This is going to happen. Yeah, I'd probably still put them top 3. And then they struggle against Legacy. So they're so up and down. I have no idea if I'm going to put them number 2 or if I'm going to put them number 4, or like they've sort of jumped around all major long in that sense. So for that, it's like 10.1 phase and 10% Mouse for me. That's sort of where I'm at for that.
Yeah, I have a problem with Mouse right now, which is I actually don't believe in them. Quite simply. And as much as I've seen them play really good CS and beat teams like Spirit, that's all valid, but I just don't believe in them.
No, and I don't believe in them because when I'm watching them, they look and they speak and it feels really unconvincing. And the way they can go down like that to Legacy and like, yeah, sure, they make the comeback. It's not that convincing in my opinion. There's a couple of Legacy blunders in there that they're relying on. And even then, even when they're down, say 6-10 or something like that, 6-9, 6-10. I think it was they were down 6-9 on Nuke. And then they just do these completely random blunders, like Brollan just pushing solo into ramp and dying in a fight he was always going to die in for zero reason. They have I think they had a 4-on-5, and Jimmy dropped off ramp because he couldn't handle it, and Brollan just straight up pushes in with an MP9. And I was like, wow, okay, you're doing that. If you do that in playoffs, you're out. If you do it once in playoffs, you're out. But this is Legacy. You could handle it, but it's like I don't know what to say.
Yeah, there's a certain aspect of them that is just they're still kind of choking in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like they still feel the moment a lot more than other teams. I think that really comes through. So I don't have faith in them, and I expect in the big games, in the big playoff matches they're about to face, the moment will be a problem for them again. And I genuinely think as well, just based on CS played over the last 2-3 months, or maybe like 2 months, Spirit have just been on a different level to Mouse, like a completely different level. And them skipping, which one was it? They skipped Dallas, right? That's the big one they missed. They went to Astana instead, and then didn't go to Dallas. Yeah, them not being present there kind of masks it a bit, I think, in terms of how people are judging them. But the actual CS looks really fucking good. So I think the Mouse game, Spirit got a really, really easy game. But compared to what they're going to have to face afterwards in that Vitality Grudge match, I think Spirit are actually heavy favorites. That's just for me, though.
Could be. I think we've talked enough about the playoff teams at this point. We've had we've talked a lot about them. I feel like that's a good pie. More or less, that's a good pie. I'd move a couple of percentages here, but we're splitting hairs, and it's all down to very specific conditions and specific matchups.
Yeah, the point is to split hairs, though, so it's cool.
Yeah, Navi, I feel like we barely spoke about, but they are down there for a reason. I'd put them below Furia.
I wouldn't put them below Furia because, as much as
I would.
Yeah, I get why, and especially when you look at the actual bracket, you're like, oh, Navi would have to beat Vitality and then Spirit or Mouse just to make the final. Hard to believe they do that more regularly than Furia make it past phase.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you, Aslan. Exactly where I'm going with this. Little bit of it's PTSD. Like, I watched that Copenhagen run. It was pure bullshit. I watched half of it in the stadium. It was even worse in person. Like, I could not believe what I was watching. They have always got that lying somewhere dormant.
Yeah, but like they haven't even shown flashes of it yet.
No,
because
they haven't.
It's still,
they haven't. And guess what? They didn't show flashes of it pre-fucking Copenhagen either. They were dog until Copenhagen.
Yeah.
And then played like different fucking... They were a different team in the second season. It wasn't even the same team. It was a different team that then played post-Copenhagen. They weren't winning in the same way. They weren't relying on the same win cons. The Copenhagen run was pure bullshit. There's a small amount of that still remains, just in the back of your mind, just gnawing away, like JL, Ancient with a deagle, just pops back into your head. Just like the classic meme, like, leave me alone. Like, you know, that shit just comes flooding back.
But even the JL X Factor hasn't been here at all, this event. Like, JL isn't pulling shit out of his ass. Bit is underperforming. Im is actually doing fine. But like Wonderful is not doing that hard. He's fine in like the deciding moments. Wonderful has actually been fine. I saw B-Trams. He had a graph up yesterday after the Legacy game. I don't know if it was all season or if it was just the major, but I think it was all season. Frags versus deaths in 9-9 and further in the game. Like,
yeah,
scoreline 9-9.
What did you call it? The key rounds?
I think it was that. Like that's when, and that's Legacy were ass in that. And that makes sense because they choked hard. But like Wonderful was kind of up there. JL was nowhere. Like JL was nowhere in that. And that's what they needed to win Copenhagen, and he's not there. So I'm not.
He wasn't there before Copenhagen. He wasn't there until Copenhagen. This is the problem.
Yeah, but he was there in the group stage, and he was there, and he showed it in the maps. Like he hasn't done anything. Has there been a single JL highlight all event, which is more than 2K?
He had a quad against G2.
All right.
Because we can now look at the multi-kills on HLTV. Thank you very much, HLTV, for adding that. So he has one fast triple kill against, I don't know who, it doesn't label which one's the fast one, and a quad kill against G2 on Mirage. Like, that's he has had more than a double kill. That G2 game was also his best event, like map of the event so far. Like, he dropped 30. Like, that was a pretty strong JL performance. But
can I see the scoreline here? Okay. Mm-hmm.
I mean, JL's also been the highest rated Navi player so far at the stage. Like,
yeah,
he's not been playing poorly.
But Yeah, but like, no, I just don't give it. Like, they're not making it past Vitality, and even if they do, they're not making it past Spirit because again, track record, Spirit versus Navi is the most Spirit-sided matchup. Like, it's the most advantageous matchup Spirit have in the world. Like,
Agreed.
for 2 years. So for that, it's like they're not making it past Vitality. If they miraculously do, if Zaibu shits the bed, like in that quarterfinal, they're still playing Spirit. If Donk shits the bed, I still wouldn't put them above FaZe. Like, they have, I don't know.
Yeah, you're not a believer in Navi, and look, neither am I.
Not at all.
I'm not a believer in Navi. I've been critical of them since they were lauded for their ridiculous streak of grand finals. Because I do remember, I said this on the double swings. Like, it makes you feel like so ridiculous when you think back. You're like, we were so desperate for a dominant CS2 team to kind of legitimize everything that we had a grand finals streak to celebrate. Like, that was the shit that everyone talked about for 6 months straight. Then Vitality comes along and win 7 events. You're like, oh yeah, that's what it looks like. That's it right fucking there. That's actual dominance.
In 23, I think Heroic had a streak of 5 or maybe even 6 grand finals. And I think Maus in 2019, my favorite team, they had 5 straight grand finals.
That Maus team was that's culture right there. That's the streets will never forget that Maus team. Like, that was no right being that good. Based on, like, kids, Carrigan, some unproven pieces, and then boom, magic. Yeah. Absolute magic.
And you know what? All of them except one are at the major.
Yeah, who's missing?
Three of them. Chris J.
I know you're a big fan. I just thought you might want to shout him out.
I hate Chris J so much. I used to like him. But yeah. But that's sort of like, actually we didn't, I don't think we brought that up too much, but those two specifically, like 24 Heroic had 5 or 6 straight grand finals, and 2019 Maus had 5 or 6 straight grand finals and won more than half of them, I think. And you wouldn't put either of those teams, maybe even top 3 in terms of team of the year in those years. And in 2019, I wouldn't even say there was another team which was more. Like, Liquid would probably have been team of the year. Maybe Astralis, Liquid, and then Maus. Some
2019,
bullshit like that.
It's Liquid are probably number 1 by most people's standings.
Astralis won both majors, and they finished the year pretty strong. But
yeah, it's close between those two. But then remember also, that was a year when 2019 we still had a very packed calendar, and so if you just look at Maus, it's just events for that year. Like, I'm just scrolling through Carrigan's one right now. There's a lot of fucking events, like shit tons. That's why when you talk about the Prime Astralis year, they won 10 lands, or 10 big events, not just lands, big events. And at Maus, the streak isn't actually big events, not by HLTV's metric. It's 6 straight grand finals, but they're not all big events. Only 2 of them counted as big events, so it's weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you filter from big to big events, a bunch of them disappear.
We had a pretty good tier 1.5 scene because you had they had the Asia Championship and the Epicenter, and they had like those sort of events where like a bunch of top teams showed up. Like Navi showed up, Vitality showed up, Fnatic, Maus, EG, FaZe, those kind of teams showed up. But then you also had like random Chinese teams and Forza, and like that was the kind of opposition. So yeah, I guess that's true.
Epicenter was
anyway. That's
cool, but yeah.
Epicenter was pretty cool. Yeah.
Who didn't want to go watch eHome? Anyway.
What
a fucking random team.
Those Asia Championships we had also, just as a complete side note, but we had when maybe it wasn't that event. There was some event where Maus played an opening game against Vadim, the Russian player. And it was a great game because they played super, super, super close. I think it was like whatever. I have to find this because this is such a fun. It was such a fun game. It came down to 16-14, and Vadim had like an insane highlight at some point. But I can't remember which Chinese team he played for.
Yeah, I need to create a lower third that just says "random quack waffle," just so that every now and then these tangents can be addressed properly.
Can reuse it every episode. I feel like. You don't remember Vadim?
The name rings a bell, but I don't remember him.
Streets won't forget Vadim.
Oh, this guy. He played on
Yeah,
Linvision. He played on
I think
Invictus. He played on a lot of weird teams.
I think it was Invictus. Maybe it wasn't Mouse who were on the other side, but he definitely played when it was when he was on Invictus, and he played in a LAN event against a good team. Yeah, it was against Mouse. It was October 2019 in Star Series. That was on Star Series Season 8, and he went nuts. He dropped 27 and 17 on train, 14-16 on both maps. Does too. He went insane. And he had this insane highlight in what I think would have been.
Oh, I found. Okay, I found. There's the highlights still linked on the match page. I see what you mean now.
Yeah. Crazy one. I remember that. Streets will not forget Vadim. I think got caught for cheating afterwards, but like a couple of years later, I think it was coach bugging.
Also a cheat, by the way.
Yeah, I think it was coach bugging when he coached one of the Chinese teams. But yeah,
he only coached in Division, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's this insane round where he single-handedly puts his team with a hero AK into a 5-on-2, and then they still somehow throw it to a 1-on-2, and then he wins it.
That should be a whole
Streets
segment.
Won't forget,
we should do that whole segment. Streets won't forget.
Streets will not forget, and I can talk about Kusta every single episode.
Yeah, the Streets have long forgotten Kusta. I'm sorry, he does not have the cultural significance. Like,
I told the story yesterday. I was like, "Sit down," I said to my girlfriend, and she said, "Why?" And I said, "I'm going to tell you a story." And I told the story of Kusta, and she agreed. He was the best player on Gen G.
He just wasn't. He just wasn't.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Let's move on. We should make this a recurring segment.
Yeah, the Streets won't forget. But yeah, okay, we come now to the small site retakes. So obviously much smaller events, but something that happened over the weekend that was of some interest to me, especially, actually. I kept track of sort of the scores. That was the Glitched Masters. I thought that was a pretty interesting event, just because, you know, there's some VRS ramifications because of the circuit we're in, and it's pretty important for some of these smaller teams. Fnatic, for example, in attendance, they really care about keeping that high, trying to get those invites so they don't have to keep losing in qualifiers. But yeah, they end up finishing second at Glitched Masters, behind Passion UA, which is a great event for them. They really needed to justify, I think, the names on the roster. Like, you couldn't have this team in Tier 2 much longer without having some serious questions. And with Kvem, Demka, Waro, these are some pretty impressive players. And they were barely top 50 in VRS, but now huge wins for them. They go up to 32nd in VRS. Big change. Fnatic also actually got up 9 to 27th. So that's what I'm talking about. The big ramifications for next season, basically. This is one of the last events, I think, of the season. Like, we're approaching the end of the season quite rapidly now. So there's not much time left to get this sort of thing lined up for next year. Next season. So yeah, no, really important, really significant. We had NIP in attendance, who actually did okay. Not very hot, though. They ended up losing to Ecstatic in the lower semis, but they still gained a point off the back of it. It was a pretty cool event. Overall, most importantly, a big event for Passion UA. But Fnatic, with Blamef and Mattis both delivering on LAN, getting them to a grand final, this is what you want to see, right? They've been through so many iterations of their roster. They keep changing things up. They're trying to make it work. They've brought in such talented players. Like, Jambo is so cracked when he's on. It's just they're struggling to get him on consistently. Crim's supposed to be the big daddy, like the veteran presence who keeps everyone calm, collected, composed, constantly delivers. More or less, it's been constantly disappointing me. I'm going to be real. He plays fine here at this event. More of the good stuff. But most importantly, that top-end rifle duo, Blamef and Mattis, that's the moneymaker right there. Those two are the juice in this orange. And they have, they delivered a really fresh glass of orange juice. Let's put it that way. Like, that was a great performance from them. Shame they lost in the grand final to Passion UA. Would have been nice to have seen them take that over the line. But hey, it wasn't because their young guys choked. Especially not Mattis, my guy. Absolutely monstrous in the grand final still. But yeah, Passion UA, full credit. They got it done. And they got it done off the back of people no one really believed in. Them, Waro, there's a reason they're here. But they put up insane numbers on the rifle and the AWP respectively. they're a very dangerous team coming into next season. If they can get those tier 1.5 caliber invites, yeah, they're gonna put the fear of God in some people.
Indeed, yeah. Yeah, this was glitched. I wasn't there, unfortunately. I wanted to be. It's DreamHack is no longer in Jönköping every summer. And immediately after shutting down DreamHack Jönköping, Glitched picked up the torch as a new recurring LAN event, and this was the first edition. And next year I should go. You should go. It's going to be cool. And if this is the caliber of CS event they can run every single time, I feel like this is much better than running an ESL Challenger. Like, that was fun, but it's 8 teams and you only care about 4 of them. Here you had a BIOC where pretty much anybody could come through. I think Wild Lotus probably came through all the way from the BIOC. From the play-in,
sure.
and they call it, but they call it the play-in, but it was basically like, this is an on-site tournament.
Hang on. So did Alliance, Sangirl, Sashi, Medisport, a bunch of teams.
Yeah.
Phantom, a very random Polish mix. Like, a lot of teams actually came through the play-in.
Yeah, but that was basically show up, sign up. There were a limited amount of... No, there wasn't a limited amount of spots. I think they had infinite spots for the play-in itself, but or at least the limit didn't get hit at the very least. But they had... it was basically an open qualifier where if you were at the LAN, you could play. And a bunch of other teams did. Like, there were better teams which also played there. Migo Short is one which is like keeps coming up. It's basically a bunch of friends who are mixed teaming, but they play qualifiers and they do well in against Swedish opposition. Had a tough group. Infinite, the Romanian team, like, they just keep showing up in random places, I feel like, for years now. But they took the flight to Jönköping and they ended up here. And there was one other, you guys won't know this, but Hässle Esport, they're one of the lower tier Swedish teams who are really like putting the work in. They have some sponsorship, they have like good support system, and they are really trying to push for good stuff here. And yeah, they did good. They did good, but they didn't manage to make it all the way, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a lot of solid teams showed up, and it was really fun because a lot of, like, anybody could show up, anybody could sign up, and I think you had to pay like a small entrance fee and then also pay for the BIOC spots. So yeah, you had just like random mixed teams here listed on Wikipedia. You have some absolutely random teams of people I've never heard of. There's a full Georgian team here with called Millennium.
Shout out my Georgian bros.
With Chewjoy, Nixor, Moise, Space Push, and Kapan. Like Saab, the company that make planes, they showed up with a team. Like, which I'm assuming is just like 5 guys who work at Saab.
Paul Bandana, Sweet Louisiana, he was there with Basement Boys.
Yeah,
hell yeah,
he was there with Bambush
you
as well.
You cannot say that guy's name without saying Sweet Louisiana. Like, that is, it's just rhythmically so perfect.
Paul Bandana, Sweet Louisiana. I forget the rest of the lyric.
Robbing on a bank in the state of Indiana. Come on.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, there was even, oh my god, the Nivera Dudek team, they showed up.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to even list them, but they also didn't make it.
Yeah, no, they didn't make it through. Sucks.
Poot Esports, yeah. Sucks to be you. No, I wish I was there, man. Imagine having a beer with Bird from Sky.
Oh, Bird Fromsky. Absolute legend.
Yeah. We're going to go next year. We're both going to go next year.
I can't make any promises.
I'm locking you in. I can't either, but let's try. Yeah, there's some tech issues though. Like, this was a VRS event.
Yes, yeah.
I should mention there was a big tech issue in the second round where they basically had to restart all of the matches second map, and there were like already some decent sized leads built up there. So I think there was some disagreement with the teams with how that was handled, and I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work out for the future. It's one to watch, but for now at least from what I've heard, I don't think it's in danger of losing VRS, but it's definitely something which I think has been up for discussion. So who knows?
Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on, because if you're a team who comes to an event, especially a LAN, which can have, as we said, significant ramifications, you don't want this sort of wild tech issue to influence anything at all. It's the sort of thing where it's like, technically everyone's on the same playing field, but with the way momentum works, with the way like the sort of interruption can fuck with your mental, like it's just we don't want to see it. So I'm not sure how the best way to handle it is in post. I would honestly leave things as they are, and that physically impacts me because I picked Tricked on Counterstocks on Skin Club. Check it out, and they lost VRS because of this. They played so poorly, they finished last. They lost like 16 VRS spots. Like that literally impacts me. But I think it should be left as is. Because the tech issues were ubiquitous. Like they affected everyone. But in future, that's the sort of thing we want to avoid at VRS events. We don't want any tech issues affecting any game. And if they are going to affect them, it can't be a full map restart after like some of them were significantly like into it.
Alliance had a 5-1 or 6-1 lead against TNL, and then after the restart, they actually went down 0-5. So they could have turned it back, and like they managed to come back and win the map. But like if they had a 5-1 lead and then lost the map after the restart, they would have had significant complaints on that. But it was a significant delay. I don't know what it was. Something about not being able to restore. I don't know the specifics. I don't know anybody who was working with that. But it managed to work out. But it was basically like first map ended, and then 4 hours later, map 2 ended. So that's rough. Definitely a big interruption. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I hope it. I hope it doesn't. I don't know if it does get wiped. Whatever, I'll take the dub. But like, I don't think it should.
There's no huge movements here. Like the biggest movement upwards is Passion from the LAN win. They gained 16 spots.
Yeah, I mean for those teams it's especially brutal because like going up into the top 35 to Fnatic are now top 30. You're talking about invites taken off the table. Significant invites taken off the table.
Actually, the biggest movement upwards is Preezy, and that's actually big for them because they're just into the top 200, which is kind of nothing in terms of European play, but in terms of getting invites to Danish events, that's actually pretty big. Like if you're doing what I'm assuming Power League might be, or like qualifiers for the next Eliza, whatever the fuck, which are like Danish specific, then yeah, that's gonna be significant. So shout out Preezy, they're great guys. Anyway, yeah, I have a different site, a small site, and this is a wonky news piece for this week. 11 influencers have been arrested in Turkey for promoting the gambling site Keydrop, which has CSGO skins in it. And one of those influencers is current Eternal Fire player, Emor. Also, honestly, another Streets Won't Forget player. He was arrested. He was released. He's awaiting trial, but he was like properly detained and everything, along with 10 others. And basically this because in Turkey, it's illegal to promote gambling whatsoever, gambling sites and such. That's basically the main reason why Aurora are no longer Eternal Fire, is because they couldn't pay them because their sponsors weren't allowed to be on their shirts. Like they couldn't have that big lucrative gambling sponsor anymore, and therefore they just couldn't pay the team. So they left for Aurora. Now something interesting with this all is that because Keydrop was a sponsor for Eternal Fire up until February 21st, and I think the players themselves also promoted it. Like they did social media stuff where like they're posting stuff like, come on, play, use our case on Keydrop, use our code, 10%, whatever might be the case. And I think the players did that as well. I'm not sure if the players still can. Actually can't check because Keydrop is not licensed and not available in Sweden, so I can't even go on and check who Emor. What part of the case against Emor seems to be that he had a case himself, like he had an Emor case which you could open with his face on it. And I'm assuming that there might be the same with like Xantares, Woxic, whatever. The interesting thing is that there were, what I've heard, I haven't read anything official on this, but what I've heard is there were a further 5 quote unquote influencers, maybe even more, who were wanted to be detained, but they couldn't get them because they were out of the country. And you put 2 and 2 together, who are 5 people currently outside the country, previously connected to Keydrop. It might be the 5 Aurora players who just got knocked out of the Austin Major. What the fuck is going to happen here? Like, I'm cautiously watching this because I'm wondering, are we going to end up where one of the top 10 Counter-Strike teams in the world are getting locked up? And what's gonna? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what might happen then. It's a goofy situation.
Yeah, it's a bit strange because, look, this is the sort of thing you should be aware of when you're a player and you're dealing with stuff like this. So yeah, it's on them, obviously, if they have done this. But it does feel a bit strange the way we found out about it, the way it's all very ambiguous. It's still kind of speculation.
I don't know where to find, like, I'm assuming there's a police report or something where these Turkish news sites got their official information, which I've then translated to English and I've read on, and that are also the basis for HLTV's reporting on it and everything. I don't know where to find that. If I did, I'd find it.
But that's the problem. Things like police reports, things like, well, just generally any sort of legal document, not necessarily that easy to access from every country. Not every country's got the same like official standards for what has to be released, what doesn't. Hell, within countries it varies like place by place. And in the US, the reason we often associate Florida man with being the most crazy is because Florida has open court documents. Like you could pretty much just go look into shit just whenever you want. Same reason certain parts of the state of the US have the most crazy dash cam footage. It's not just because their people are crazy. It's because they legally release it after a certain period, just every time. Yeah. So it's gonna be a bit, like a bit dubious for us to really know what was going on until we get, I think, a statement from one of the players potentially just clearing things up that we are or we aren't implicated. I think that'll be important to find out from them. And yeah, it probably did linger in their minds to a certain extent during the major. I think it's more of a, oh, I need to make an excuse type of excuse than a outright thing, because we don't know if it does affect them, but they should.
No.
And we'll find out what's going on hopefully soon. And obviously we'll be talking about it on Retake the Week. So tune in every Monday for live updates on Turkish Crooks, ? Dun, dun, dun.
We just invented 2 new segments. So we have
Crime Watch.
Aurora Watch. Crime Watch, yeah, we have Crime Watch. Another Streets Won't Forget player, HS, was also once arrested while he was playing on Gorillas. He rode a motorcycle without a license and he was locked up for like 2 days. And I think they had to skip officials for it.
Man, you need to stop tarnishing the Streets Won't Forget legacy so quickly with players who are just kind of shit.
Look, HS has been around the block though, yes.
Yeah. He's around a long time. Do you know who else was? Every centre-back who played in the bottom 10 of the Premier League. They're not Streets Won't Forget players.
Streets Won't Forget. Fate, the Estonian player, who I think has the record for playing with the most different nationalities. I looked into this once. I think he might be the only player in the world who has played with a player from every single continent as a teammate. All right, anyway, that's it. That's it.
Already forgotten, but all right.
Yep.
That brings us to, naturally, of course, the Eternal Shuffle. Oh, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. We've got one more segment. One of your favorites. A recurring segment with
yes.
Now a rising superstar in the scene as far as just this segment.
I sent you a picture.
Yeah, it's time for Cock of the Week.
Yep. So, honorary mention, Kingt for forgetting this brilliant segment exists. But in terms of what today's Cock of the Week is, I don't know if the picture's up on screen. I've actually posted 2 tweets from a different person, but that's because his context is extremely important here. So congratulations, everybody. Round of applause to Kassad for being the first repeat mention on Cock of the Week in Cock of the Week history. He was speculating when Slend was missing IEM Dallas. He was speculating that it was not down to visa issues, as the team said. He was speculating there was a conspiracy, that they secretly wanted to do away with Slend when they weren't able to. Shortly after he speculated this on May 14th, Benji, Benjamin Gruneberg,
what
team
the
manager.
Fuck was that?
Benjamin Gruneberg. That's his name. Benjamin Grüneberg.
Okay, I'm sorry. It just
Grüneberg.
for a second it sounded like I was just still asleep and having some weird sort of nightmare.
Right?
You
Yeah.
you just made some sounds that with no context. That's what the fuck's going on.
He's German, but I said it in a Swedish way. Anyway, Benji, the team manager of Gamer Legion, immediately quote tweeted and said that, well, there's actually a reason why Slend, despite being Hungarian, cannot isn't eligible to travel to the US under the waiver that exists that says Hungarians don't need a visa to travel to US, and apparently he's born outside of Hungary. That's apparently why. So they either had to skip Melbourne to have his visa hearing, or they had to skip Dallas because he didn't have a visa, and they chose to do the latter. And despite this correction existing, when they benched Slend just the other day, Kassad was immediately out there saying, "Oh yeah, it was visa issues. Where's that idiot?" And he immediately showed up. Said idiot. 9 minutes later, showed up and said, "Everything I said is still true. It's still visa issues." And it just shows that the funny thing about social media is you can be a complete moron and say whatever the hell you want, which is completely incorrect. And as long as you ignore the people who correct you, no one else is going to know, because they won't get the same attention as you do if you are big on social media. So yeah, Kassad twice over making the same incorrect claim, and it doesn't seem to. Nobody seems to realize that it's incorrect. So therefore, or maybe he's just dumb. Maybe Kassad is just dumb and didn't realize that there was a possible there was a feasible explanation that he didn't understand or whatever.
Do you know what this feels like? Do you know what this feels like?
What?
This feels like the Haruma mill. So
yeah,
it sounds like Game Legion had this reason.
Mm-hmm.
Coincidentally, in the background, they are also having a different conversation with people about making this change. That leaks to the wrong person, and we end up with an attempted aha, when in reality it was just two things can happen.
Yeah. So Kassad shows that he has the same credibility as a rumor,
Well, he's not a journalist, so he should never have had really any sort of credibility.
Neither's Harumi. Harumi's a Belarusian teenager.
And he doesn't have any.
Yeah,
he doesn't have any. That's why we call it the Haruma.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, no. Okay, that's. It's just a bit of a. It's just a bit dumb. Like it's just a bit dumb. Yeah. Like it was no need to get so frustrated, or so up in arms about this. Like it's quite possible for a team to want to play out the season with a player, try to replace them after that season, but at the same time have some visa issues right at the end. Like that's just not that crazy.
No. Yeah. Actually, this is maybe I think the last time Kassad had a Cock of the Week appearance, it was also to do with visas. And he knows a lot about visas. He posted Jacob's passport on Twitter publicly. So, yeah. If this guy keeps talking about visas, he's going to be here every week.
Yeah, if only Kassad wasn't posing as a
New segment! Visa Watch!
Shut up. We're not doing Visa Watch. Trust me, but no, I'll let you do it. By the time we get one episode, like one day into it, you'll be talking about something else anyway. Just like how you tried to start Streets Won't Forget and immediately talked about HS.
All right, fuck. Okay, HS is not a Streets. HS and Fates are not Streets Won't Forget players. Vadim is though. Vadim definitely is.
Just for that highlight, sure. Just for that highlight.
It's one of the best highlights.
But okay, that does wrap up Cock of the Week. We play it safe. We wrap it up, and so next it's the Eternal Shuffle. Present me with. I mean, I'm assuming there's not a lot going on and not a lot of additions, especially because I'm expecting the off season to come soon, and that'll be the real fun. Yeah,
it's a lot of removals, but we have some tier 2 additions that are actually kind of fun. But speaking of, Gamer Legion, they benched Slend this week.
Yep.
Long time coming.
It really has been. He's been horrible. No offense to the guy. Like that's the worst part. I liked him on Mouse NXT. I thought he played pretty well. Endpoint, he was a bit of a carry. They set him up a lot, but he hit the shots, he got them wins. And when he comes to Gamer Legion, even then, early on, I felt like he played pretty well. Like he carried over some of his form. But it just slowly tapered off and tapered off and tapered off. And by the end, especially against stronger opposition, was just ineffective.
Yeah.
So it needed to happen. The cut needed to happen. The addition is going to be interesting, because if the one rumor I've heard is true, which is Kersey, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, is what I'm going to say. I don't believe it.
Well, okay, so what's the grade for the Slend removal itself? It's
It probably has to be a B or an A, because like it's the AWP. You can't have a bad AWP. Like, and he was bad. Like, he wasn't just mid. He was bad. So yeah, it has to be probably a B plus A minus sort of grade. Pending,
but then with the Kersey edition,
my instinct is like drop into a C, but
yeah,
I it's one of those things where it's like I didn't really believe in Rez out of sheer stubbornness. I didn't think anything that much of Towson. I'd never really cottoned onto him as that kind of player. To be fair, never interviewed the guy. Like, I don't have those conversations that coaches are privy to. So there are aspects that I can't judge on, but Ash proved me wrong on both of those.
Yep.
Let's hope he goes 3 for 3. But in my mind, this is a strange decision.
I saw some people saying that when the Kersey rumor came out, they said that, so Gamer Legion are content with being a farmer team and they just want to farm talent so you can sell on. The thing is, Kersey, even if he works out, he's not going to be that, because he's 23 years old.
Yeah.
He's put at this lower tier of play where Mouse NXT played with Slend and where Kersey has played with primarily Gen 1. They have basically the same numbers. Like, Slend, when he was down at this tier last year and the year before, he was doing about the same that Kersey has done now. So they're very comparable in that sense, except Kersey is like 4 years older. 3 or 4 years older. You're not gonna, even if Kersey works out and starts dropping 115s in tier 1 events, you're not gonna sell him on. Like, you're probably not gonna sell him to another team, because they are gonna go for a Jambo, or they're gonna go for a Grix, or they're gonna go for somebody who's a teenager and doing better numbers. Like, they're gonna go for try to make the Molodoy move happen again. That's what they're going for. So Gamer Legion have made this, assuming this is the move. Like, it's been, at this point, it's been rumored. We talked about it last week, how apparently he's now playing Prax with them, based on leaks from Prax servers.
Yeah.
It seems like it's happening. And if they're doing that, they're not doing it to be a feeder team. They're doing it because they think he has talent which they can work with, and they can work with. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe they want the exclusivity and they don't want to get poached. Maybe that's part of it. But I know. So I guess we'll see. What happens. Ash, leave a comment if you're watching. He sometimes watches. He sometimes comes and leaves a comment. Justify the move, Ash.
No, you don't have to justify shit. It's fine. Not in words, at least. Just do what you did with Towson. Just make him go out, play good CS, and we're like, all right, fair enough.
Towson is kind of the same thing. Like, Towson is younger, so Towson is definitely somebody who he's 19 years old. He definitely has prospects. If he had worked out to be a star player, then people definitely would have signed Towson. That's not his role, but they signed him as sort of a almost nonsensical move to replace Andu, who was a talent. Definitely talented enough for somebody to look at Andu. And they signed Towson, and I was like, what is this? But they made him work. Like as you said, they made him work. Proved us wrong. And they've used his talents for themselves. So maybe this is an attempt to do the same thing again. And honestly, yeah, you're right. I'm going to trust Ash in this, but it does feel extremely weird, even if you want to look at offers at this tier of play. Peepo just screams to me. Like, Peepo just screams like a slam dunk signing if you want to go for players who are unproven and you want to try to make something out of them.
Yeah, Peepo's an interesting one because my conversation with Ash, members have obviously listened to in big numbers, actually. It's pretty well performing. We talked about what are the things he'll look for in a player he's scouting. And the word that came up time and time again was consistency. Peepo has not been consistent on Sinners. His top end has been insane, but he's not been consistent. Kersey, year after year, puts out a 1.13. Like, he's fairly consistent. And especially recently of late, has yet to have, I think, a bad event. Just if you go through his event page pretty much this entire year, he's been incredibly consistent. And so in terms of practicing what he preaches, this is entirely within Ash's sort of modus operandi. Like, this is exactly the sort of thing he would look for. He would want. Yeah. And as much as I agree with you, I actually really like Peppo, whatever you want to call him. he has massively like underperformed at certain events and certain periods. But then, he has those top end events like the European Pro League Season 24, where he carries to the final and carries them to a win. But consistency has not been there. So even if your eye test on him is high, just doesn't have what Ash specifically says he looks for. So I think in that sense, it's logical. It's just my eye test on Kersey isn't as high as I'd like it to be when I'm trying to replace Slend. When I'm trying to bring myself into Tier 1 and compete consistently in playoffs, I wanted a better AWPer than this. That's why I loved the idea of a Grix or Molodoy to Gamer Legion signing, because they're not that Tier 1. They're Tier 1, but they're still making it. They're still proving themselves. There's still some development period like allowed for your players. That's why I really like those kinds of guys. But look, if he's seen something I haven't, brilliant. I want to see Game Legion in playoffs. I want to see them winning big games. If he works out, all the better.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what happens. Watch this space. Next up, MIBR. Rather, Lukowski has benched himself out of MIBR. He made the announcement himself, and he said that he requested to be moved to the bench, which is exactly the same language that Drop used earlier in the year when he was benched and they brought back Bruno. So Breno, yeah.
It's a bit of a weird one because we've had our criticisms for MIBR's roster building time and time again. And they've had not terrible results of late. They made top 8 at Astana. They beat Falcons and BetBoom in stage 2 to make it close, to bring themselves back up to 2-2. Those were decent performances. The problem is, it's not really Lukowski's team.
No.
Lukowski is a player, and Fluxo, he is the star player. He's the player who gets set up for a large number of openings, who doesn't have to really do hard entry work, doesn't have to hard anchor, never has to give things up. And he put up crazy numbers, and that's why he ends up signing for the team. The problem is, on this team, they already have a star. Like on the rifle, it's Insani. And whilst he has had a weaker year than he has in past years, he's still their priority. And so it makes sense that Lukowski, after this much play, has just decided it's just not working out for me. Like this doesn't fulfill what I wanted to be as a player, but also it's not working as a team, so I might as well go try something else. So benching himself, I think, makes sense. For MIBR, there's a lot of questions that need answering. Like exit back to IGLing after, last time it was tried, not really working, and it's working okay, but it's not really getting the most out of these pieces. When you think of Insani, Safe, these guys are top Brazilian talents, top with a capital T. Like, they're not supposed to be this sort of struggling roundabout disaster of a team with constantly players coming in, chopping and changing IGL. They're in an ugly situation. I think, had Payne not already made moves, I would have tried to get them to buy Insani for a stupid fee. Like, I would have tried to get a sort of rebuild going. But instead, they're in a really weird spot now with Lukowski on the bench and a roster that still doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to see MIBR's future progressing positively.
I'm wondering what's happening on the inside, considering both Drop and Lukowski seem to be proactively wanting to get out of the team. That sort of makes me wonder. That's 2 in the same year, and yeah, it might just be playing for socials. That might be like, we're gonna say that it's mutual, but in reality, we wanted to get rid of you. It might be that, but it's still weird in that case, because that's them doing that is what makes me think there's something wrong. So, I don't know. For Lukowski, it makes sense that he wants out. Like, he doesn't have the space. He doesn't have what he needs. Like I said, it's not his team. But it's also like that's the management's responsibility to make it his team. So yeah. Well, or rather make him work and make him and Drop work. So yeah. Is there a grade on this?
It's kind of hard to put one on here because it's not at surface level. It's just a player benching himself. For him, it's probably like a B. For the team, it gives them a chance to restructure again, but they're probably not going to do it right anyway, so might as well give them a C.
Yep. Speaking of benching yourself, Adam B has decided not to renew his contract with Metasport. which is ending in about 2 weeks' time. So he's out. He's looking for opportunities. I'm assuming he has offers. And for some background context, it's what I've heard is he has a problem with somebody on the team. There's somebody on the Medisport squad which he doesn't want to play with. There seems to be that feeling within the rest of the team as well. So that player is maybe also going to be removed. But it's very tentative right now, and I actually have no idea what they're doing. It's very much hanging on very different things, and there's limited options for who you're going to bring in, and none of the options really inspire me in terms of who you might bring in. I'm thinking players like Maxter and Jocab might be on the table, if you're looking Swedish, as a straight Adam B replacement. I'm thinking there's some Danes you could look at. Like I'm thinking Zyphon would be really interesting. Nut is sort of a candidate, I would say. They have an academy team of some Norwegian players if you want to try, but that also is like that's a fat downgrade if I'm honest. Even if the talent is there, that's a lot of development work you have to do. So I don't know.
I don't really like this for Metasport. I love it for Adam B. He needs better. And hell, we've speculated a lot. There is a legit top 20 to top 15 sort of Swedish roster that can be built like that. And it probably could contain Adam B. Like he's definitely got that sort of talent. It's just a question of always figuring out the rest of the logistics. For Metasport, look, Hampus is a weird guy. Lumen's not a great AWPer. Maybe it could be either one of them who people don't want to play with. My guess, it's the weird IGL who's bounced around a bunch, but I literally don't know. You know, I literally do not know what's going on in there. As far as restructuring, I mean, just replacing Adam B is not easy. You mentioned Maxter Jocab. Maxter I don't want in those roles. Jocab, I think, could play them, but I don't think he's as good. He's just straight up. I do think you'd rather restructure again. It's another team that could do with a restructure in terms of who's playing what roles, because there seem to be a lot of overlap between some of these riflers. I would take a chance on like Plopsky as my number one guy again, if I was at management there. But realistically, they just don't have key pieces that need to be there. You know, their AWPer's not good enough. The IGL, I had faith in him proving me wrong, because historically that's been the case with Hampus. It's like, Hampus goes to a team, I'm like, okay, if you play Hampus Strike, you know, and you play around his sort of weird style, maybe you can get some wins. And then he kind of did, but I was always, you know, I always thought of him as like a stopgap, never your long-term plan as a team, just because of how strange the CS he played was. He didn't manage to overperform that expectation at the major. So for me, it's, you know, just cut him. Like, that felt pretty cut and dry.
Yep.
I feel like figuring out the replacements is tough, because you already cut one of the best Swedish IGLs right now. One of the most valuable ones. You let ZTR go for strange reasons. So maybe Metasport aren't that interested in winning.
I feel like you could look at like an Arvid, or you could look at like maybe a Liam. Maybe if you want to do role restructuring, you could look at a Poi. I feel like that would be a mutually beneficial move for both parties.
Yeah, just without the IGL is the problem. Like, I don't think you have a great IGL situation. I think for those younger guys coming in, assuming that that's the problem, I don't know. I don't want to. I mean, Poi's already got a terrible IGL. Might be an upgrade. So, you know.
That's sort of what I feel like. He kind of gets out of the rut of where eyeballers are at the moment, if that's what happens, and he gets into a team who just made the major. Yeah, they flunked, but you know, he gets a new start with some new teammates. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, Adam B, where does he land? I'm trying to think about that. He's like a lurker kind of player, lurker anchor kind of player. I saw Ludi. He said that he thought he was going to land on a North American team. I don't know what the hell that's about. The only one
North American
which would make sense is complexity. Wildcard doesn't make sense because they're already moving away from maybe his brother, and they're looking to go more American. And complexity are the ones who maybe are looking at getting rid of 6E or Nick X. M80 doesn't really make sense. They really want to avoid the whole America's debacle, and I'm not even sure it makes sense for Adam B to go to M80, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, M80 is a team with there's some really fun stuff about that team in terms of,
Yep.
the IGL, really good fragger, pretty strong caller.
Mhm.
Some of the riflers are solid, but honestly, matey, if you just rebuilt a European squad around Sin, could be absolutely nuts. Like, could be really, really strong. So maybe that's the sort of rumor that's actually going to come true. As in, it's a North American team, but the rebuild will be European. I wouldn't put it past them. Like, I wouldn't say it's a bad move. I'd recommend it almost. So,
I'll give you a couple that I think could be on the cards, just as landing spots. Okay, no, I don't have a lot of them. They're quite few. NIP is like an obvious candidate for Arrow's
yeah.
Dodge.
I mean, no, I wouldn't. No, this is the thing. So Adam B has played so many roles as a rifler on Metasport, and I wouldn't put him into that team for Aros Dosh. I'd try to bring him back to his more aggressive style that he played earlier when Nyla was still on this team, and I'd put him in for you jerks, obviously. Like, that's Aros Dosh hasn't been the problem on NIP.
Yeah, okay, fair.
A lot of their shortcomings, so that'd be more my go-to.
I just think that's fair. I'll say complexity again, just because I feel like it's possible. They'd go 2-2-1. Actually, they might not want to do that, but maybe they want to get rid of JT, or they want to get rid of Holzerk and skip the visa issues or whatever. I don't think so, but
Yeah,
I'll say it's possible. OG. I'm thinking there's a Fiku or a Buzz you could cut there, maybe, if you want. We talked about this last week, why you maybe wouldn't want to do that, but I'll now that he's available, I'm gonna mention it.
Yeah, that's an option. Yeah, I'd consider it, but I'm again, these are pretty ambiguous. We're talking about a young guy going into a younger team.
Yeah.
Maybe I think he could be better than Buzz in theory, but you're asking a lot for an org to make that risk.
Yeah, I'll give you one more, which I think is the top, the maybe the best one I've heard, because I've heard people float stuff like Heroic, but I don't really see how you would do that without cutting. Maybe you could slot him for X-Flood, but X-Flood's better. And even if you slot him in for Youngster, I don't think you're getting much more out of that than you already have with Youngster. And you rip apart the core, which is quite happy being the way it is, I think. But yeah, I'll give you the top one, which I've heard, which is Fnatic for Crims.
I mean, that's hard support shit. I don't know.
That's hard support shit.
Still think
Fnatic
probably
do it quite well.
And I still think, he probably would do it quite well. He's been versatile.
Maybe he could get slightly more freedom if Adam B comes in and Fear takes a step back. I don't know exactly how Fear plays, but like, there's maybe some space to be gained there. I don't know if Fear plays like fully bitch.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't hate it, actually. If it
I
still think that could work, and if it worked, would have an insane ceiling.
Yep. Oh, the other ones I've heard is like Game Religion for Towson, which I guess is possible, but we just talked about how Towson is quite proven, and they're already probably making one. They are already making one move. Not sure exactly how good of an option that might be. And then the rest, there's a weird amount of national, like non-English or Swedish-speaking teams who are up here, who make it difficult. NRG is another option, I guess, but because they already had success with Bro. But again, it's like, I don't see why you would cut either Hext or Georgie for Adam B, to be fully honest. They just played quite well at the major, both of them. So, I guess if they want to stay international. Anyway.
Yeah, no, NRG are not making a cut. Not for those guys, especially.
No. Anyway, that was a long tangent on that. We're gonna try to move on. Here's a rumor, not a rumor. This is a Gromover, which is the guy. Gromov is the guy. Everything he does is he stalks Prac servers. He stalks Prac servers and sees who plays on there. He has seen that Grix is playing with Heroic.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
Yeah, he's gonna read like a book, to be honest.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely nuts. I love it for Heroic. That's kind of OP.
Yeah.
Especially if he works out in the way we think he could in terms of his ceiling. His ceiling is pretty fucking high. So, no, I mean, for Heroic A+, you got the other AWP prospect everyone wanted. Like, everyone else, hope Tried stops trying to be a streamer. I guess if you want the other guy that might one day come through. Like in terms of ability, there's not that many left who haven't been picked off at the top end.
As much as we just talked about how Ash might have made a genius pick with Kersey, or maybe no. The moment Kersey was rumored to GL, I was thinking that Grix has to be going to Heroic, because there's no way, the only way Grix doesn't go to Gamer Legion in this shuffle is if he goes to Heroic. That's sort of how I felt. So, but they're going for, if this is true, they're going for Grix instead of Brokey or Dexter, which is more going for experience, perhaps.
Yeah, but
makes sense.
They're not that good. He's not been that good recently, so
no.
Yeah.
Good move. This is one of your players. Gun5 have picked up Texi.
Yeah, that's become official, hasn't it?
Yes.
I didn't really like the position they signed him for, and so far it doesn't look like he's fitting in that well. But he's talented. They signed a guy who's really skilled. So we'll see. I'm hesitant to be super excited. If they're going to use him as like it's weird because the two teams that he's like transitioning between play very differently. But I liked the way he played on Rush B, how he was used very explicitly to close as well, and set up for it in that way. They look like they wanted to be more of a pack aggressor, which is sort of something he did occasionally fairly competently. So I don't know. I like it that he's moving up in the scene, but I was really hoping he'd be the player going to Paravision instead of Ziello, just because I thought the fit was better.
Yep.
But for Gun5, this is a solid addition.
Yep. All right. Solid. Copenhagen Wolves have added Nixon, so this would be in place of Quest.
Honestly, B. Solid. Nixon, I think, is a better player than Quez. Nothing spectacular. You know, I've done some demo review of him, and he's not some insane prodigy, but he's
good.
Comfortably like a good role player, you know? So I don't mind him.
Yep. Previously of Wopa. All right. Kono have added Juve as a coach. Where are we at on Kono? In mid 2025?
Honestly, basically
not
done
much
with
left.
them. Like this is like, look at the players that are left. They've brought in Owner at some point. I missed that 2 months ago. Okay, and I like the idea of trying that, but they just don't have the talent required to go out and win games with any consistency. Like Saltovsky is all right. He can clutch up every now and then, but generally the team is just short on firepower. So coaching change is cool. I'm not sure it does enough.
Yep. Let's move on quick. There's a rumor, 2 rumors actually, to wrap this up. Number 1, Imperial Valkyries to cut Zaz, and I thought this was dumb until Imperial Valkyries played the Traded League thing without Zaz. So maybe Zaz is gone.
Who did they play with instead?
They played with Hanka instead, but she said explicitly she was standing in.
Well, it doesn't make sense for like direct, does it? Like,
yeah, and the original rumor was that they were testing Vienne, but Vienne played against them on Eco Warriors in the grand final.
Yeah, but that's just one event. Right?
Yeah, sure, but like if they were testing Vienne and Eco Warriors are completely orgless, then maybe they, why wouldn't they go for Vienne instead of Hanka?
I don't know, maybe some sign-up thing with the trader,
Yeah, or they tested her genuinely and they didn't want her and they decided we're going to keep looking.
Yeah, it could also be that.
Yeah, it could also be that. Whatever. They don't have Zaz anymore and we have no idea who's coming in. Is there anybody in particular you would want to put in?
Oof. Let me go through my notes on some of these ladies. I actually did like the idea of Hanka potentially coming in because she's a beast,
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't want to pick someone from a team that's currently signed and good because I think it would just be hard to make it happen.
That would be, Big Equipa are maybe not signed and good, but they're signed. So Hanka would have to transfer from Big Equipa.
Yeah. Just having a think. Oh, I mean, hell, if you want to ruin the French national team, you can try and sign Rachel. Uh, Maybe grabbing one of the NIP Impact twins would be nice, but again, they're locked into NIP Impact. I don't think that's easy to make happen. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's some other talented players. Just I don't think they will have the exact right role or style, rather, that I'd want for the Zaz replacement. But maybe you just jiggle things around with the players you've had for so long, and you could go for someone like a Verona. Yeah, or maybe even like a Jenny R. Is Jenny R available? I feel like she got cut.
Yeah, I think she did. We talked about it.
She is, and she's pretty good. So yeah, there's a couple moves you could try. It's just in terms of the level of play you're signing to try and replace Zaz and to continue to be Imperial Valkyries. Trying to win things, be on top of the world. I mean, I know you just got knocked off, but if you're trying to come back, not so clear who you could go get. Yeah, well, it remains to be seen. But there's some good players out there. I mean, Kyosa's also on Eco Warriors, and she's had some absolutely insane Impact League seasons. So, yeah.
Yep, good pick. We are getting tired, so we're going to do the final rumor. And it's only mentioned because apparently, according to Harumi, Cloud9 were interested in the Navi Junior lineup to sign it straight up.
Not
and this
stupid.
is more like, let's forget about the Cloud9 part. Let's just say any org you want to enter CS. A lot of people are saying this, that any team looking to enter CS should buy Navi Junior. And I'm not sure that that's even feasible, considering the cost that would be involved.
Yeah, they don't have the hype of any, they don't have the hype of a Kyosuke, or any of these individuals.
But if Kyosuke went for $2.5 million,
as I perfectly predicted, you're welcome.
It's actually true, yeah.
To the exact dollar.
To the exact dollar. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, no, no, it would be
if Kyosuke. Yeah.
It'd be similar price for this team. You'd pay $2.5 to $3 million probably for this team, considering their youth, their level of play. You probably would have to pay that kind of price. The only thing that's making me think maybe you could get them cheaper is the team, having been with the org for so long and having no promotion in sight, would start wanting out as well, and that'll probably force your hand in a negotiation. But realistically, you don't even need the entire team. Simtry and Jigs are not that special. No offense to the lads. They play well within their roles, but the appeal, the meat of this, sandwich is Demon, Crab, and Imakaze.
Yeah.
That's the trio. You sign that rifle trio, find yourself an AWPer, find yourself a role player. You're cooking with gas. Like that's a top 30 team. So yes, they are an incredibly valuable core, and therefore as a full 5, incredibly valuable too. So no, I wouldn't be surprised if a team like Cloud9 comes in and pays Kyosuke money for the 5.
The only issue is if you did that 4 years ago, that was entirely feasible because you could then go off of brand value and just get invites to tier 1 teams, like tier 1 events.
Right.
But you can't do that anymore. So how are you going to recuperate? And look, I know esports is a losing business, but there's got to be a limit to the point where like you eventually go, I'm going to buy a team for $3 million and probably maybe like salaries or tier 1 salaries as well for those players. I'm going to buy that team. And look, you're not going to break even on that prize money even in tier 1 events, but you're not signing that team to keep playing CCT for another half year, which you might need to do. And yeah, you could go for open qualifiers. Supposedly we're going to have more open qualifiers in 2026 is what I'm hearing. But like, it's much harder to make that investment back at this point compared to just signing a Makaze and or a Krabini. True.
Very true. There's no real core you can buy with invite links right now. Like invite level rankings. No. That just doesn't happen right now. There's no one I think you can pick out that would be worth buying. Just to then slot 2 of these guys into, like, it wouldn't make much sense.
No.
I think there's a bunch of invites they probably will be receiving soon, though.
They're top 30. You're not going to Cologne, but you're going to maybe like the Fisher thing. The Fisher thing is
exactly. The
fully
Fisher
realistic.
things like that.
Whole. Yeah.
So
I guess maybe that's it.
They are going to be receiving invites, I think. And I don't think you have to rely on them winning CCTs to get, those invites coming. So I do think they're a worthwhile investment, 100%.
Yep. All right. Fair. And that's the last of the shuffles. And we are getting tired, so let's do the thing. Let's do the thing.
Do the thing.
I forgot the thing. Prospects is what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, prospects of the week. That's how we wrap up every show. These guys, well, I'm picking a guy that I've already talked about on this damn episode, so I'm going to get rid of him. Get it done real quick. Just cover that. I am picking Grix, who managed to play 20 maps in the last week, and did so whilst averaging a stupid rating because he's Grix, and he's kind of that guy. They didn't. I'm trying to look through the games. How successful were they? Fairly. Yeah, fairly. And he's just been absolutely dumpstering. Even when they're losing maps. He can do it all in terms of like playing different parts of the game. Like he can trade, he can open, he can close. He can rifle and pistol to a fairly strong level as well, but he is a very strong AWPer, and that's what dominates both sides of his play. He's not playing hybrid CS. He's still at like 0.33 KPR on the AWP on T side. He's using that fucking thing. So, yeah. Big time prospect. If he goes to Heroic, expect to see a lot more of him. For now, still playing it's sort of in the doldrums with Aurora. Formerly Aurora, now Astrum. And yeah, love to see more of him.
Yep. Actually live right now versus Copenhagen Wolves, who we just mentioned. They're live right now. And I'm just going to quick side note, Copenhagen Wolves are playing with Becker as their AWPer. So nice.
Yeah.
Seems like he didn't retire after all.
Weren't they playing with someone else yesterday? No, just yesterday. I saw they were playing with someone else.
Oh. Maybe.
Yeah, just yesterday they were playing with Junimi.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that. All right.
Yeah. So weird. I'm not sure who exactly is going to be their full-time AWPer, but I like both those options.
Yeah. Good job. Copenhagen Wolves, Copenhagen Revolving Door. Nice. I have gone for Niffy, Knife, the player on TNL.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. One of the guys on here. They have a lot of players who are really good, but in particular this week, Niffy had a really good week. 22 years old. They were in the glitched event, and they played quite well. I think they made quite a deep run. I think they made top 8 or top 10. Top 8 they made, which is fine. I mean, against similar opposition, they won in Lund just the other month, but they end up being knocked out by Ecstatic in the end. Also lost to Alliance, but yeah, the opposition maybe not the strongest, but they're on LAN and it's a relatively inexperienced team. And Niffy kind of went nuts in that time. It's a 136 for this event. So just being able to get that done in like a LAN event, especially where you have some difficulties, you have the tech issues during that Alliance game, and you have like some pressure, and you're quite far from home. You are in the middle of Sweden. Great place, but yeah, that's for TNL. It's like if they keep banging in these performances in mid-size LAN events, this is a really serious team to contend with. And yeah, Niffy's been doing great. He's been doing really good in that regard, and I hope he keeps doing it. So
yeah, TNL, man, they're just low key plugging along, just winning games. I mean, they didn't do that well at Glitch Masters, but they've won a LAN not too long ago. Finished top 6 in Advanced. They're coming along. They're a team to be cautious of, I think. In this coming year.
Yeah, they still won 2 series here. It's against weaker opposition again. Yeah, but like they made it happen. They played close against Ecstatic. Like they're banging in good performances on LAN, which is like that's a very good place to be. Especially it sort of correlates with the sort of investment they've made. With I think it's Kane who went as a CEO into this team quite recently. So yeah, nice. Let's go. I like this team, and I hope they keep showing up to Swedish LANs. What I've heard is that what's his name? I think it's Flyrax. I don't know if he did it now, but when they were at Level Up Lund, every single match, every single day, he had sunglasses on. And then when they went out to the after party, that's when he took them off and put them up on his forehead, and they were all night at the club.
Sunglasses.
Yeah,
Bro had
Like-
AR fucking wall hacks, I'm telling you.
yeah, no, like shit like this.
That's just goofy, but alright.
He looked baller.
Weird way of saying goofy, but okay. Yeah, that's where the episode ends. Obviously, with prospects of the week. Of course, as I look to my analytics, it's when the viewer count peaks. So nice timing, lads. Next time, get here a bit earlier. But all right. Thank you all for tuning in. And for anyone watching the VOD, you made it this far. You're a legend. And anyone listening on Spotify, y'all still exist. It's so weird, but you keep plugging away. So yeah, thanks all for all the support. Thank you especially to the members for the financial support. Very helpful. And yeah, if you want to see more, sub. There's plenty of content coming. Members obviously get access to a bunch of extra stuff and rights, which apparently is a thing people like. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Hopefully a little earlier.